And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. I'm Ray. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan. By the way, before you get in, I just want to say I'm happy to be back. Last week was awesome being a really, really hot Canadian guy, but I didn't like having that accent as much as I thought I would. So it's kind of cool to be back to Southern California, Dan.
Yeah, big shout out to Justin, who filled in for Dan on the show last week, which we kind of loosely planned because we weren't sure about Dan's internet connection, but we had tested it and it sounded great. And there was no reason to reason to worry. And then, of course, the show goes live and Dan's internet dies. So he joined last week via Clubhouse, which is cool.
It was kind of interesting, but yeah.
So that was fun. But thank you guys for joining us on this show. We're going to talk about a lot of news articles today. Two of the biggest ones are probably this inventory surge. Is it coming? Is it happening? What's going on in your marketplace? So if you're a real estate professional listening to the show, we want to know. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you could just type in the comments and then we can talk about you, or we could also just talk about your comment. Just like Mario Flores did. He said, "What up, Ray and Dan?" What's up, Mario? Thanks for joining us via YouTube. If you're on Clubhouse, just raise your hand. One of the moderators will move you up to the stage, and then we can get your opinion on what's happening in your marketplace specifically. The other really big news story that we're going to talk about is the DOJ, the Department of Justice, backing out of the deal that they made with the National Association of Realtors. Was it late last year, like in October or something?
Yeah, and remember, it all started because of those sellers that were suing because they wanted to they didn't want to have to pay buyers, agents and stuff. It started kind of there, and then the DOJ is like, cool.
Yep. And there's lawsuits that are continuing, but the biggest news was that the DOJ worked on a settlement with the National Association of Realtors. The NAR started implementing those changes, and now the DOJ backs out. So we're going to get details on that, talk about what it was. We're also going to have a conversation about materials prices, mortgage servicers, how they're bracing for a fallout. Could we see a huge fallout due to the forbearance stuff? We're also going to talk about June jobs report. Is that good news or bad news for housing? And then Logan, who spent a lot of time on the show last week kind of educating on this, actually has an article this week about the forbearance crash and if it's going to happen or not, which we'll save for that part of the show. But thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. One of the things that makes this show different is when people interact with the show. Just like when D Jones, she says, "Hey Beards," she's loving Dan's golden locks. Look at that.
By the way, this is how I went gray. My hair is white.
Yeah, it is going white. Look at that.
Yeah, my hair was about this color, but now it's just gone white. So everyone thinks like, do you bleach your hair? No. I just have white hair.
I'm getting like white beard strands here. And I was talking to Tyler Whitman. And he just redid his hair. I was like, bro, that looks good. At first, I was like, I don't know if it's gonna look good. And I told him, and he did it, and it looked really good. I was like, man, that's cool. And he was like, you should do your beard, and it's kind of like this cool golden platinum color. And I was like, Tyler, I look like Santa Claus. And he was like, oh yeah, never mind.
Like, you got to think when you have a white-ish or beard, what's gonna happen? Especially Ray's very jolly.
Yeah, very jolly. I'm a little rotund. It's just a comparison that I want to avoid for a little while. Jeremy James says howdy. Melissa Marr, she's joining us also in the comments. We have a bunch of people joining us in the Clubhouse. We really appreciate you guys. If you're listening on Clubhouse, there's a little greenhouse at the very top. Be sure to click that greenhouse and follow the Real Estate Networking Club. When you follow the club, it'll let you know when there's great rooms all around. Like, I know there's a great room. I can't remember. Matt LaMarche is in the house. Matt, I'm not sure where your room this evening is hosted with Amanda on the high level masterminding. Can you give that one a shout out?
Of course, and thank you. It'll be here in the Real Estate Networking Club at 7:30 Eastern.
There you go, 7:30 Eastern. You guys don't want to miss that. It's become one of my favorite rooms because it's a lot of high-level discussion. You kind of move away from the, hey, be sure to contact your database and don't forget to post on social media, right? That's all the basic stuff that we know. But those high-level mastermind groups on Clubhouse are pretty cool, and they go into some deep thought processes and really make me think. So you guys be sure to follow the club. That way you get introduced to things like that. You can also follow any of the speakers or anyone that comes up on stage to contribute. We really appreciate that. And Dan, before we get too far in the show, I should mention that if you're watching this on a replay on YouTube, you can go down to the description and see all of the articles written out with timestamps, and just click on one of the timestamps and you'll zoom to that place. It should save you a little bit of time if you hate the banter. And Dan, before we get into this show,
the much maligned banter,
would you tell people what this show is actually all about?
I would love to. Now, when Ray and I met here on the interwebs, how old is Matt? 21 years ago. The show is a Zoomer, an Exennial. I don't know what we're. Anyway, we met on the here on the interwebs a while ago. I had an idea for a show because I am in fact a bearded man of real estate. But when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
Really? What's that, Dan?
He is deathly afraid of bees. Deathly.
I do not like them. I'm not deathly afraid of them. So here's what happened. When I was a kid, that we had these railroad ties in the backyard, right? And I was just playing around, and I jumped on one of these railroad ties. And it's not really the bees. It was the yellow jackets. All of these yellow jackets came out and attacked me and swarmed me. And ever since then, I'm not one of those guys that's going to put on a bee suit and go hang out around bees. But I love honey. I'm just not going to be one of those. I don't want to take the risk. Everyone tells me honeybees are different. That's fine. I don't want to take the risk.
Yeah.
See, Matthew Clanton said bees are pretty chill, guys. Yeah, I know, but BMORE, BEE more. Yellow jackets are 10 times worse. That's great. But when I hear a boom by my face, I don't have time to say, was that a honeybee? Am I going to be okay?
Was that a horsefly? Was that a honeybee? What was that?
Horseflies are terrible. My gosh. All right. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
And by the way, I don't even know what a horsefly really, I think it's a big fly and they bite, don't they? I don't know what they're just big buzzy things that'll zoom by it. But anyway, every week I make up a new thing and I hope that Ray has something to say. And apparently he does, even about bees, but we need to keep the bees alive. They're the little things that are keeping this entire planet alive. So you need every bee you see, you need to save it. Anyway, I obviously noticed that Ray is a beautifully bearded man, but I also noticed that he loves giving value up front to not only his clients, but also to humans in general. So the show's about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
Yeah, and one of the ways we believe being more and contributing back to your clients is to know what in the world is going on, especially in the real estate marketplace, which happens to be our expertise. So we do this show because every week we kind of look up the articles. Yesterday, we did not do the it's not called a pre-show. Show prep show?
Pre-show show.
Yeah, we did not do that yesterday because yesterday felt like a Monday due to the holiday. So we apologize, guys, for that. But we look to do the show prep show next Tuesday, where we'll talk about the articles that we're going to cover and kind of get ready to cover them, and you guys kind of get a peek behind the scenes. But we were doing that anyway before we started this show, and we thought, man, we should just share this information with the real estate community. That way, they have one place to go, spend about an hour-ish, unless we run long some days. And you can kind of get a good rundown of whatever's happening in the marketplace. That way it better educates you so that you can better educate your sellers and consumers on sometimes the decisions they're making with their largest investments. So,
really, and it doesn't hurt that we are extremely good looking fellows.
No, I mean, that's part of it.
There's that as well.
I do want to thank Adam for his contribution. He just paid me through the Clubhouse app. That was cool.
Cash App?
I didn't know you could do that, but yeah, I knew you could do that, but no one's ever tested it. So he just sent a tip. So thanks, Adam.
I'll take some tips too. Just at D Letter Garage or the
no, you're in the. You could do it if you set up payment in Clubhouse. People can send you that was my first $1. So Adam, thank you so much.
Okay, hold on
for giving me for being my first.
Okay, I'm gonna ignore the show. Well, let's do the thing, and while you're talking, I'm gonna set up payment.
All right, yeah. Let's get into these articles. Are you ready?
Hold on. How do we do this?
All right, here we go. All right.
Maybe it's not on Android yet.
That's right. Maybe not. That's a good question. I don't know if it is or not.
Dang it, I don't see it. But you can just go to my Cash App. It's just the cash sign, then D Letter Grok. Shoot me a couple bucks, and I'd appreciate it.
All right. So speaking of the rising cost of everything, including listening to Dan,
including listening to this show,
prices for construction materials jumped 26% in a year. So honestly, that sounds low, given everything that's happened. When this article came out, it's from magazine.realtor, so it's on the National Association of Realtors. 26% price increase for housing materials sounded cheap compared to what was happening with wood. We know that in the last 52 weeks, the low price of wood per 1,000 board feet, or however it's calculated, was around 400 and something. It got all the way up to $1,600. And at last I checked, it was in the 700s. So the wood has plummeted. And it may have missed this stat, but the median price of a newly built home was 18% higher than a year ago. The material shortages have increased for appliances and paint, lumber, and more. We've talked about the paint a couple of weeks ago, and they said at the time that they anticipated that there was only a temporary shortage, but there are still some paint colors that you can't get. So the builder reaction to the shortages, there's a chart in there. If producer Matt could put that up, it says raising prices on your homes frequently. 62% of builders are having to do that. Pre-ordering materials, 59% of builders are pre-ordering all of the materials. And then 45% are including escalation clauses in their contracts to cover those material prices increase. And then 39% are waiting to spec homes until the completion or late in the construction process. So there's a couple of other breakdowns that you can go to magazine.realtor. It's your National Association of Realtors news outlet, and check out that chart. Pretty interesting, and could affect the way that you're having conversations with buyers and sellers and people that are looking to build their home right now. So
I've kind of said it on the show a lot before. I don't do a lot of new construction, and new construction is different here with the HOAs and the Melrose, which is a special assessment tax. But there's this lot that we have a street called Euclid, and it's got some really cool historic homes on it. It's a really great street in Upland, the city next to me. And there's this lot. It's probably 40,000 square feet. It's been sitting and sitting and sitting for sale for a long time. And just the other day, I was driving by, and there's a sign up, and they've actually started construction. So they're doing, I think it looked like 4 houses on, so about 10,000 square foot lot each. And they're doing 4 houses. So I find it very interesting. It was sitting before the Rona ever happened.
Yeah.
And no one bought it. But maybe the cost of the land got so low that they're like, well, I can't help it. Or maybe they bought it before the Rona and then had to start. But I find it very interesting that while these lumber prices, because if they already got walls going up, so the foundation's already poured. That means they bought the wood when it was still really expensive. So I find it very interesting that they're starting now, and it's a smaller project. It's just 4 homes.
It's got to be the low inventory that's kind of driving the desire and the need, right?
Yeah.
Christina M. Smallhorn joins us and says, hello, fellas. And she also brings up a good point without saying anything. I wonder if some of the materials prices and the increase could lead for people to build smaller homes, because it was real trendy, and I'd love to hear her tell me if it's still trendy to do the tiny home. There's tiny home stuff on HGTV, and everyone was talking about tiny homes, but I feel like the trend has kind of started to go away. But the lessons learned from tiny homes can stay for a long time, can stay forever, right? The way to do storage and the way to move things around a house to improve layouts and the way. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of things that builders can put in place that they learned from the quote unquote tiny housing boom that kind of took off and then never took off in some markets. But I think there's a way to use those increased materials prices to still build a phenomenal home. Phenomenally phenomenal. I didn't mean to say phenomenally.
Phenomenally phenomenal.
To build a phenomenal home and then use some of those practices and stuff. So they're using less materials to build something way more quality. That's what Christina Smallhorn says, still very trendy because it's less expensive. Yeah.
Well, and I think what the Rona has taught us is that, remember when everything was locked down, and I don't know if it happened around here where it was like, oh, we're all shut down. More and more people got out. Like, we were supposed to stay away from each other 6 feet and all that stuff. But at the very beginning, first of all, the first 3 weeks or so was just like a ghost town everywhere, which I loved. I don't like being around that many people, but it was like all of a sudden everyone's on a bike and there's a mountain bike short. You can't buy any bikes anywhere. And then everyone's walking, and, you'd walk and you'd stay 6 feet away from people with your mask on. But combining that with more and more people are enjoying being outside, I think it's taught us, like, we don't need so much space inside. We need more space outside. So, yeah. And I know there's the trend that you're saying for the that silver wave that's not coming, where they're buying the bigger house actually, so they can have the family stone where everyone comes and they have what they need downstairs, and then the family stays upstairs. But for younger people, and I'm seeing more and more of a trend, people renovating. Our good friend Tim Macy of the Tim Macy Show and #whiteboxing is doing a bus. I have another friend that's rebuilding a bus, and I think there's more and more of that going. People wanting to get out and being outside. I think the Rona has kind of, and then the government oppression. You don't want to cover that, but has forced people to get out and really enjoy being outside.
Oh no, that was terrible. It just kicked me out of the room on Clubhouse, so I'm back. Sorry about that, guys.
All right.
All right, so Adam Johnson.
Because I mentioned government oppression. Sorry.
Maybe. Adam Johnson chimes in and says, in my area, they're building 500 square foot homes for 220,000 and 200 square foot homes. 200 square foot homes for 150,000.
Wait, what?
It can't be 200 square foot homes, really?
I'm sitting in more than 200.
My office is bigger than that. Surely not, Adam. Tell me I'm wrong. Melissa Mars said a friend of mine is doing a bus too. She lives in Philly right now. Didn't Tim Macy of the Tim Macy Show, #whiteboxing, didn't he buy a bus? Is he finished with that yet? He was going to travel the country in that thing.
Yeah, that's what I haven't seen his updates. I don't know. I just saw an update the other day where he had his shirt off and he was boxing someone. That's the last update I saw. But I don't know. I feel like it should be done. Maybe we should.
Maybe that's a reason why the mortgage applications are sinking to their lowest level since before the pandemic hit.
Oh no,
not Tim Macy, but maybe alternative things like people are getting in the RV and going away this summer. So mortgage,
that's why EXP is failing so hard because Tim left.
it's all Tim Macy's fault.
Got a van down by the river. Matt, nice work, buddy.
Yeah, you notice after he left, like EXP stock continued to rise. But anyway, that's beside the point. Mortgage demand fell for the second week in a row as low inventory and high home prices continue to weigh on the housing market. Mortgage application decreased 1.8% last week, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association seasonally adjusted index. So again, it decreased 1.8% last week. Both refinance and purchase applications took a hit. Mortgage applications to refinance dropped 2% and were 8% lower than a year ago. Home purchase applications dropped 1% for the week and came in 14% lower than a year ago. And remember, last year, this time, it was really picking up and more people were going through the mortgage application process. And trying to buy
people got comfortable right now for sure.
Everyone started talking about pent up demand in late July and August, and they were talking about how it would carry us into the fall. While Susie Orman was predicting the crash of real estate in October, November, December. Just want to throw that out there. Swift home price growth across much of the country, driven by insufficient housing supply, is weighing on the purchase market and pushing the average loan amounts higher, said Joel Kahn. He's MBA's Associate Vice President of Economic and Industry Forecasting. Here's let me get to this other quote, and then Dan, I want your take on it. He said, Treasury yields have been volatile despite mostly positive economic news, including last week's June jobs report, which we'll get to in just a second. It showed an ongoing improvement in the labor market. However, rates continued to move lower, especially late in the week. The 30-year fixed rate was 11 basis points lower than the same week a year ago, but many borrowers previously refinanced even at the lower rates. So we did have a huge surge of refinance activity last year and into the beginning of this year. Oh man, it dropped me again. Sorry about that. That, guys. I don't know what's happening. So the Clubhouse app has been glitchy as of late. So I'll just throw this out there. If you're frustrated as I am by this, you can also catch us on YouTube if you don't want any kind of interruptions. And it's
because of all of us new Android users jumping on, and they're like, wait, we don't know how to handle this.
These Android peoples. So I'll try to keep an eye on it better. Sorry about that, guys. I'll see if I can reposition this thing in front of me so I can see if it drops again. All right. So anyway, as we were saying, a lot of it, as we were talking about the increase in home prices, last year at this time, there were a whole bunch of people that were making mortgage applications that was carried on into the previous year. They were doing both buying a house and refinancing a house, and the activity was so strong that as they refied, there were bankers that were increasing the rates so that people would stop applying.
Right.
All of that activity that we saw at the beginning of this year and end of last year started in July and August. And so that we are seeing numbers that are 14% lower than a year ago, but I wonder how that compares to 2019 and not just 2021. Dan, what's your take?
So my thing is, I just don't think to me, they're keeping these rates artificially low. They're making this happen. I've said it 1,000 times is we need more incentives for sellers. Especially with more, the next story we have, I don't want to give it away, but with more jobs coming back, we have, a very, very positive outlook. But why are we keeping rates so low? In my opinion, when they did raise them, it was because, hey, we have, they raised the rates and they raised their standards. Like, hey, we have too much business right now. And I think we have, so them dipping right now or less buyers in the market right now is a good thing. Although if sellers are seeing these stories, they may get worried about, well, where are these buyers going? Believe me, there's still plenty of buyers for any sellers that are looking to sell right now. There's still plenty, there's still, 20 for every one house. So if we doubled our inventory, we'd still have plenty of buyers. But I think raising the rates wouldn't be a bad thing right now, and then help incentivize some sellers. So, I don't see these numbers as, very concerning at all. I just think it's, you're comparing it to a year ago, which was insane. And people started getting comfortable and like, wait, interest rates I can get an interest rate for 2.5. People were purchasing with 15-year fixed at like 2.15 or something. I mean, it was insane. Like, so to compare it to that is a little insane to me.
And you did mention the jobs report. Let me see. So we will talk about this jobs report, and then I want to get a lot of feedback from you guys in the audience and those who are also in Clubhouse. So the jobs report is going to lead us into our next conversation about inventory. But let's talk about the jobs report real quick, because you did mention that hiring in the U.S. picked up steam in June as employers added 850,000 jobs amid a declining epidemic cases, and reopening the economy, said the Bureau of Labor Statistics on Friday. The lackluster April and June's employment gains were totaled 100,000 more jobs than economists originally predicted. So 9.5 million jobs short of its pre-pandemic levels. So there was room for growth. Let's see. Approximately 70% of the jobs at the start of the pandemic have been recouped.
Which is, I think that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, a worldwide pandy, and you're still at 70% of the jobs back.
Yeah.
But our number, what is our current unemployment rate? I don't see it in this list, but
it's always.
Yeah, maybe you can look that up. I don't see it in this. I don't see it in this report too. So the Fed, and you guys have heard me say this before, the Fed has really a two-part mandate. One of those parts is to maintain full employment, and then the other part is to prevent inflation. And as people are working, then they have money. So
5.9% is what I found.
So it's under 6 now. So that's
great. And that's as June 2021. So
yeah. So as the Fed sees that more and more people are employed, then they will start to have to raise the rate, because if they continue to give out money cheaply, then the orders for producers will go up. And when an order for a producer is so high that they can't keep up, they raise prices, and then thus you have inflation. So if they're trying to prevent the inflation, then that's how to do it, is you have to raise the rate. So it seems logical that the rate should start to increase sometime this year.
And they've kept them so low for so long, and we've been waiting for them to go up. We predicted that they would go up, but they just keep going back down. And I think right now they're like 3.15, which I think you can still get under 3% for the A+ paper people. But I don't want to, never mind. I was going to mention something. I'm going to mention something else. But I found it interesting in the article. So as for the housing market, residential construction employment, including specialty trade contractors, rose by 15,200 last month. And that's a more robust pace than in recent months, and a positive indicator for a sector facing severe supply constraints. But then
it makes sense, right? If they have supply constraints, doesn't it make sense that they would need to hire more people in order to build more stuff to take care of the supply constraint?
Yeah. Now, the next stat is in May, the overall construction sector actually lost 20,000 jobs, though that was mostly concentrated among non-residential specialty trade contractors. So
interesting. So the
well,
commercial sector, which we've been talking about, maybe this is an early sign that they could see some great deals in the future of commercial.
yeah. Because I mean, I overheard someone the other day talking about it was just a dude I was picking up some stuff for our reptile. We have a bearded dragon, and I heard the guy in front of me saying, "Hey, my friend is something about my friend is an electrical, trying to become an electrical contractor. He's an apprentice, and they actually had to let him go because they have too many, apprentices kind of going through it right now. So it seems like jobs in a lot of these different trades are back and strong. If they can lay people off, then it seems like, and I'm seeing help wanted or positions available signs everywhere here in Southern California. Everywhere I go, non-dependent upon the city. I don't know why I said it that way, but non-dependent upon the city. It's everywhere.
Is the unemployment what was that, assistance and all that stuff, is that over? I think it is, right? That has stopped.
Yeah, now it's just the rental and mortgage stuff that's
right.
That
rental and mortgage aid is still out there. All right. So
no. I think that stuff goes through September. Just I think it goes through September if you need it, kind of thing. So it's not been extended. I think it was always until September.
Adam Johnson will know. He also knows the rates. He said the 2.85 30-year currently at the same bank, the SS Bank, and he also found the 2% 15-year cash out refi. So yeah, that's ridiculously low. That's incredibly low. I love it.
Right, like
Justin joined us from YouTube. He said, "I found you on YouTube." Good, Justin, thank you for joining us.
And I know I'm just messing with people's money here, but I'm saying the economy can handle, especially, by the way, in a lot of the reports, and if you read through Logan's the story, I think we're doing that one second to last. Not only are jobs coming back, but incomes are going up. So we can handle going up to 4% and smoothing things out a little bit and hopefully getting some more sellers, because I know Joe Biden is going to come up with something for sellers soon. I know it.
You're more confident than I am.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
the focus has always been, every administration, the focus has always been on buyers and buyer credits and buyers, and you let buyers buy, and how do we get more buyers to buy? And right now,
the American
so many
dream?
buyers buying that.
Right.
That's part of the issue. All right. So
yeah.
Let's talk about, speaking of the epic housing shortage, it may finally be starting to lift as a surprising number of new listings hit the market in June. This comes to us from CNBC, Dana Orlick. The epic housing shortage that began from the pandy was exacerbated by it may finally be starting to ease up. More supply is suddenly coming onto the market, which will certainly help frustrated buyers and could, in the longer term, take some of the heat out of home prices. In June, new listings increased 5.5% year over year and 10.9% compared with May, according to Realtor.com. Among the nation's largest cities, the 10 markets with the highest new listings increased 20% more than a year ago. So here's a quote from the Realtor.com senior economist, George Ratiu. Ratiu. I don't know. I tried. Although there's still significant shortage from homes for sale and home prices just hit a new high, our June data report shows good news on the horizon for buyers. Inventory declines improved over the steep drops earlier in the pandemic as sellers step back into the market in a variety of price ranges across the country. So you guys can read more about this. There's a couple more quotes from him, and they talk about the housing supply. But Dan, what's your take on this? Are you seeing an increase in supply in your marketplace yet?
Yeah, 100%. Usually I just do Rancho numbers, but I've opened it up. I do the surrounding areas because I work a lot of, I work 3, almost 4, 4 different counties. But so I opened it up, and not only are we seeing less activity, less offers and all that on listings, which either they're, we were talking about buyer fatigue for a long time or for a while, but now it seems like there's more listings coming up. So then I ran some numbers, and we've gone from, and this is a crazy number, I know that, from about about 2/3 of a month's supply. We're now at about 9/10 of a month's supply now. So we're going up slowly. We're not even at a full month supply yet. And I did 4 cities, but it's up, and it's up. I mean, that's a significant number when you look back, and there was we're selling 100 and I think it was 140 a month, and we only had 80 listings. Now, again, I did a bigger number, but now let me see. I did 4 cities. So I did Rancho Fontucky, which is Fontana. If you live around here, you understand the Fontucky joke. Rancho Fontucky, Upland, and Claremont, selling about 350 a month. There's 507 that are under contract or pending, and then there's 315 active or coming soon. So it's getting close. We're selling 350 a month, and we have 315 active. So we're getting close. So I'm seeing more and more listings. Now, is it enough to stop the bleeding? No.
Yeah. It's there. I am seeing more listings in our marketplace, but it's still not enough to satisfy the current buyer demand.
Yeah.
Let me bring up Clubhouse because I want to talk to anybody that's out. I think Matt, are you with us right now?
I sure am.
What are you seeing in the hot Atlanta market?
Yeah. So, sales up about 23% from last year. There was definitely a surge in the last 30 to 45 days of inventory, but there was also an increase in sales as well. So they've been moving pretty congruently. But I mean, here in the Atlanta area, we're still way, way behind on new construction and have been for about 3 years now. So everyone kind of looks at new construction because of the cost of living in Atlanta as a leading indicator, and then behind everything else typically falls.
Can I ask Matt a question?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Because again, I don't do a ton of new construction here in Southern California, but so for new construction, just 3 years ago, let's go back to 2017. Logan goes back to 2017 a lot. So let's say, what was the, if you're buying a new construction house versus whatever market, low, middle, or high, was the new construction the lower cost thing? And then is it now? Are they about even? Is new construction more expensive? What's that look like?
You mean, was it as compared to retail homes?
Yeah. Resale. Yeah.
Okay. So in your market, Matt, was new construction, was the difference in the price of new construction and regular resale residential closer than it is now, or what is it by comparison?
Yeah, great question. And the last sales meeting for our brokerage, they talked about a $20,000 difference, which is basically nothing because the average price in Atlanta now is about $450,000. So, you're talking about, what is that, 5%? So it's basically meaningless at this point. But what's interesting is if you look back at 2007, 2008, 9, and 10, when we were building substantially more properties, obviously because of everything going on, now we're kind of back at what level we should have been at if the recession had never occurred. So if we didn't experience that little dip, if you will, we're basically where we should have been with 5.5%, 6.5% increase every year.
That's really interesting. So the appreciation in your markets, that's great. In our market, we've averaged appreciation for years and years, somewhere around 3 and 4%. And recently it's 10 and 12. So it's a little bit wilder locally than it normally is, but our difference in new construction and resale homes, like you just said, it's not as much as you would think. In our marketplace, the resale homes are selling almost just as much or just as well as the new construction properties. And the odd part is that a couple of years ago, the disparity was huge in our market, where new construction was pristine and could sell a lot more than your resale home. So lately that gap has definitely closed. Well, if you're in Clubhouse, feel free to add your 2 cents. Also, you can on Facebook or YouTube. I think it's stabilized a little bit. Knock on wood. I don't want to. Adam Johnson says the median income might not be able to handle the payment difference in a payment. $300K, 5% down at 3% is $1,600, but $300K at 5% down at 4% is $1,780. So $180 difference. Many people will not be able to handle the debt to income ratio difference in the payment. We might not be able to handle the payment difference between the two rates. And he asked for thoughts on that. I think what we're seeing, though, is a lot of people are putting more down. I think they're having to bring more to the closing table. 5% down. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of 5% downs. Even my VA buyers are putting down a whole lot of money. So I think in order to
cash to cover.
Yeah, and I think in order to get the rates that they're looking for, and also to cover any kind of appraisal differences, I am seeing a lot more people put money down. So
Well, and I don't know if we have a story that covers this, or if it was just when I was reading through stories, but I read that people are taking all the money they saved, during the Rona. They went out less, they made a lot more food at home, they didn't travel, so all that money that they saved,
oh yeah,
they're using that to purchase homes with now. And again, I don't know if that's an article we have, but I saw that somewhere, that all that money they saved, because remember, there was no travel. That if you live in Canada, there's still no travel. You can't go anywhere.
That's a good point. That's a great point. And we're seeing a lot of. We talked last year, 2 years ago on the show, we were talking about how there's $2 trillion in equity wrapped up into everyone's houses. And then about a month ago, we had the story in which everyone gained $33,400 in equity in their home.
It's the beginning of the year. Yeah.
So maybe a lot of people are taking that equity and putting more down on the next home. And so they're looking at, the difference in $180 and being like, yeah, we can do it.
Well, and then if their wages went up, I'm seeing my buyers are getting, bumps in, it's nothing huge, but that could help them bridge that gap as well for that $180.
Adam Johnson said median home sale in Duluth is $240,000. Average new home starts are almost $400K. Yes, we see that disparity between your average home sold and what the new construction is.
Wow, that's a noticeable difference.
Not average, median, but yes, most of the homes that are on the lower third and lower fourth of the marketplace, they're not new construction in our area. Wow. They're not even being touched. It's the upper, 10% of the marketplace that's getting all the new construction homes. So,
which it's not. I mean, around here, it's not needed.
Well, could that lead to a crash?
Are we there yet?
Let's talk about it. Mortgage servicers brace for a fallout as the bailout comes to an end. Oh no. All right, the nation's mortgage servicers are gearing up for the biggest wave of delinquent loans since the subprime mortgage crisis. They love putting that in an article.
They love it.
But this time, they say they're ready. The first wave of borrowers to enter the government's I'm trying not to say the word, the Pandy's mortgage bailout program are entering their last possible quarter of relief, which means that come September, they will either have to start paying or sell their homes and go into foreclosure. So we've talked about this at length. Let me see if I can get a couple of highlights and quotes here. Here's a quote. Jay Bray, CEO of Mr. Cooper, the largest non-bank mortgage servicer in the nation. Am I alone in thinking of the show Hanging with Mr. Cooper? Whenever I see the Mr.
I think that's why they changed their name to that. I mean, it's so.
Maybe that was what the actor did after the show. He bought a mortgage servicer and started garbling up. Okay. Anyway, Jay Bray said, we all know what's coming and we're invested as well. So I think from the industry's perspective, we are, especially among larger servicers, I think we're definitely ready. At the start of the bailout, part of the CARES Act, Bray characterized his mortgage program as complete chaos, but now admits I was wrong. Ooh. He said it was simple, easy. The customer experience, I think, was about as good as it can be. And when you look at the tools, sorry. Normally when they'll write a quote, it's not transcribed from audio, but these clearly are, and it's difficult to read.
This one was rough. All of his quotes were rough.
Yeah. So it was simple, easy. The customer experience, I think, was about as good as it can be. And then you look at the tools, when you're coming off of forbearance, those are as easy as well. But Bray also said that his company is adding staff to get ready for the onslaught of moving some staff from originations, which are currently weakening, to loss mitigation. So if you recall from last week's show, we talked about the differences in this and the subprime mortgage crisis. We also talked about I think it was 2 weeks ago, we should really annotate and add those on YouTube, but we talked about the mortgage servicers and everything they would have to go through before at the very end, they would be allowed to then foreclose on these properties. We also talked about the amount of equity wrapped up into people's homes. And it just doesn't seem like, even if there's quite a bit that come on the market because they're in foreclosure, it doesn't seem like that's going to crash the market.
Well, they would still I mean, they would still list at market value. The bank would still want market value. And so part of the thing that happened, and I wasn't an agent when it was all crashing, Ray, you were, but part of the thing that happened, in my opinion, because what I did see in 2011 when I got my license, not, by the way, now that I'm that agent, I get to say I've been doing this for 10 years. So, but anyway, when I saw it, there was the homes were not only distressed because they owed more than they were worth, but they were distressed. They were physically distressed. You know, people were mad. They were angry. They ripped appliances out of walls. They stole copper. They did everything. I mean, my puppy's name is Copper. He's please don't steal me. But they, they were in rough shape. And I used to, I do everything on a scale, kind of like an appraiser does, 1 through 10. And I used to always say, now a 5 is, hey, the existing house is there, but the kitchen's probably going to be missing. There's going to be a room there, but no kitchen.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do something to this home to even move in and make it livable. And then 6 and so on and up there, but
you're just not seeing that these days.
No, we're just really not seeing that. And hypothetically, the economy was going really well until the Rona hit. And then, so people, by proxy, were taking care of their homes, and hopefully they still are taking care of their homes. So if they hit, they're still going to be those 7s, 8s, and 9s and 10s, and they're, so maybe they're still going to want market value. And I just don't see, because the crash would have to be like Susie Orman said, okay, all of a sudden the $300,000 house is listed for 150.
Right.
It's not going to happen. It can't happen.
No. All right, Susanna Martinez, she joins us on YouTube. She says median home price in Santa Clara County here in the Bay is $1.43 million. She said we're seeing more inventory come on the market and the days on market increasing. They're starting to see price reductions in our area as well, less offers on the property.
Same.
Adam with the answer for Mr. Cooper. Mr. Cooper changed their name because if someone saw a Nation Star, they knew the mortgage was or is distressed, and they had to change their name.
It's because Mark Curry bought it. Mark Curry's the actor and
and everybody's hanging with Mr. Cooper. He also says that in his area, banks also let the houses freeze and they turn the heat off, which ruined foundations up north in the winter.
Yeah, see, there's those things, and there's a lot of that in Texas as well.
I just don't feel like if somebody's in a position right now in which they can't make a payment, they're going to put their house on the market and make a lot of money. They just have to figure out a rental situation.
Right. Well, okay. So I don't know what article this is. Again, I may have read a different article, but right now there's imagine you sell your house and you walk with, you pay off your loan. Again, there's so much equity in this country right now. So most cases, because right now, let me give you the stat. 72% of all participants has since left their forbearance plans, while 28 or just more than 2 million remain in active forbearance. So, but those people most likely have equity, right? So imagine you sell and now you have all this equity. There's landlords out there right now. They're hungry for, people with good jobs and people with that can pay their mortgage. Imagine if you paid, you're going to wait until you're a seller, you sell your home and you want to wait until this madness is all over. So you just pay for 2-3 years up front. I'm going to live in the house for 2-3 years, lock me in at this rate. Let me have it for 2-3 years. I'm going to live here for 2-3 years until this market changes. Then maybe I'll buy,
Well, and that leads us perfectly in to the pending home sales crush hopes of forbearance crash bros. So this is from Logan Matashami. I'm not going to show the full article. We'll show a couple of graphs from there, but the National
Housing Wire Plus, you got to pay for it.
Yeah, Housing Wire Plus. You guys go check it out. Can you show that graph, producer Matt, right above the fold there? It said from the National Association of Realtors, pending home sales rose by 8% in May from the prior month and 13.1% from a year ago.
Look at that.
Yeah,
but look back to, he mentions 2005.
Yeah, the May 2021 pending home sales index of 114.7 is the highest reading for May since 2005. Contract signings rose in all regions in May compared to the prior month and 1 year ago. So wasn't it Matt LaMarche that was just talking about how this seems like it's kind of continuing from that time period?
Yeah. I mean, but look at the dips though. Like if you look, so where that crash was at 2007, and for those listening, we are looking at a graph on Housing Wire Plus. So if you want to see that, go over to Housing Wire, or watch us on YouTube. But
yeah, on YouTube too.
But if you go back to that crash right after 2007, 2008, it got pretty low. Now, at the beginning of the run, we went lower. And then there's an extreme spike, literally straight up, and we're now above that. I mean, that's a recover if I've ever seen one.
So the homeowner
very skinny V, Ray.
The homeowner equity surges. That's the other thing I want to show. Let me see if I can bring it up here in my Chrome tab for you. Here it goes. I got it here. All right. So let me zoom in. You see the owner's equity and the mortgage debt outstanding. Basically, this graph shows that the U.S. homeowners equity surges to 23 trillion as a value of the housing stock tops 33 trillion. So basically what we're seeing is that there's only a very slight uptick in the mortgage debt outstanding,
but
and
equity.
A pretty huge growth in the equity, which is what we talked about, because at the beginning of the year, the equity grew, what was it? $33,400 for the average home in America.
Yeah.
So all of this goes to the articles that were leading up to this and everything to say, in our opinion, we tend to agree with what Logan's saying and a couple of other economists. It doesn't seem that even with a lot of the forbearance and foreclosures and stuff like that may be coming on the market, that it's going to cause a crash, but it could cause more homes to be sold and maybe a leveling and increased inventory, which could create a healthier market overall.
Well, and with, and I say this, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but with only, because it was like 12.2 million people in forbearance when it first started. Now it's at around 2 million and more jobs coming back available. So hopefully these people are getting their jobs back or getting into new jobs to where, hey, maybe they don't have a 2-year work history where they can purchase a new home, but they can keep their current one, So yeah, I don't know. Whoever bought into the, and I love Logan, how he just dashes the hopes of the Crash Bros, and he has been for a year now,
Speaking of bros, look, Howard Harold Broadsley. He says, "Hey there, gentlemen, all the way from Israel. Hey, man."
He's one of our favorite people, and he's
worldwide.
He makes us world famous. Can I read this last little? So he ends it, and again, there's a lot of meat. If you're on the show last week or were listening to the show last week, Logan provides a lot of meat to his dinner plates. I'll say that. I don't know why I'm coming up with these analogies today, but he's very, very knowledgeable man. But when he ends it with, during this 4th of July weekend, I want everyone, this is Logan speaking, I want everyone to enjoy Independence Day, even the much maligned forbearance Crash Bros. I raise a hot dog to them for trying, but that whole 2021 forbearance crash thing just isn't going to happen. Educated high-income homeowners, even those in forbearance, are not going to sell their homes at a massive discount for no reason. So just stop. Like, you can't say it any better.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. That Logan, he's a nice side of beef, quote unquote. Yes. Dan Ludwig.
Is that what I said? I mean, I agree either way, but yeah.
Okay, so this next one, and we're gonna have to have some industry feedback here too. Oh, by the way, D. Jones said there's no rentals in our area, so
yeah,
now you gotta you're gonna have to move around a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the DOJ. To recap, basically the issue was that there's several lawsuits brought against the National Association of Realtors that dealt with collusion and also exclusion. So collusion among its members in creating a non-competitive market surrounding commissions. The other issue was that the commission on the buyer's side of the transaction seemed to be hidden, and that the buyers didn't know that it cost them to use a real estate agent. But the seller was also paying that, and so they wanted to make that public and let the buyer know, like, here's what they're. So now you see it, like on all these third-party websites, you see the buyer's agent compensation that is being paid by the listing agent or the seller. So there were some changes that the National Association of Realtors made. I don't think the coming soon rule was part of that.
No,
the clear cooperation policy may have been part of that.
That was to try to get rid of pocket listings, but they created more pocket listings.
And then there's the thing about letting a non NAR member use the realtor lockbox.
Yeah, you have to, right?
Yep. So the DOJ is backing out of that deal. They're basically saying never mind. So there's two articles on this. One is on Housing Wire, and then the other one is on Inman. The piece on Inman is an opinion piece by Jay Thompson, who is a former brokerage owner and also worked with the Zillow Group. But I really like his take on this one.
Yeah.
So let me get to the brass tacks of the Housing Wire article. DOJ has fully walked back a settlement agreement that it reached with the National Association of Realtors in the waning months of the Trump administration regarding antitrust claims. The agency announced Thursday. In a statement, the DOJ said it was withdrawing from the settlement so it could undertake a broader investigation into the NAR's rules. The proposed settlement will not sufficiently protect the antitrust division's ability to pursue future claims against NAR, said Acting Assistant Attorney General Richard Powers of the DOJ's antitrust division.
Which I think is interesting. They were like, no, we'll settle, but you can't ever come after us again.
Well, that's what they're saying is that, hey,
right.
The settlement didn't allow them to come back after them. So real estate is central to the American economy, blah, 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 platitudes. All right. In the agency initially sued the 1.4 million member strong trade group in November, alleging a series of violations of antitrust law, including commission arrangements and consumer disclosure requirements. They have the 4 points there that we've kind of already discussed and talked about. I want to get to Jay's article because he has a quote or a response, I guess, from the National Association of Realtors. He said, "This is a complete, unprecedented breach of agreement by the Department of Justice to withdraw its consent from a fully negotiated settlement that had been approved by the head of the Antitrust Division and we had begun to implement. The National Association of Realtors rules and policies have long sought to ensure a fair and competitive real estate fair market for home buyers and sellers. Grounded in our commitment to act in the best interest of buyers and sellers, we regularly update our rules and policies to protect consumers and provide transparency. NAR has fulfilled all of our obligations under the settlement agreement, and now the DOJ has inexplicably backing out. If the department does not live up to the commitments under the terms of the agreement," this is the part that I'm like, ooh, what are they going to do? What's the National Association of Realtors going to do if DOJ, like I'm getting excited, right? As I get a telemarketer call, I'm getting super excited about this part because we're going to hear how NAR is going to like bring down the hammer and go after the DOJ and how they're backing out. All right. So here's what they say. If the Department of Justice does not live up to its commitments under the terms of the agreement, we are confident in our prosumer and pro-competition policies. What?
Where's
is
the
there
action?
recourse? Is there recourse with this? Like, is this allowed?
Happened?
Can somebody just make a settlement and then back out? And there's no like, that was the weakest.
Wait, so we went all through this litigation and trials and whatever, right?
We had a whole settlement.
Everyone agreed.
Everyone agreed to the settlement. NAR starts to implement the settlement. DOJ says, wait, we're not going to agree to this settlement suddenly. We want something changed in it. And we want to be able to sue you in the future for the same stuff. And
that's what they're saying.
And the NAR is like, what? You can't do that. We've implemented all this stuff. And if you continue not to do that, we're confident that we're okay.
It's like the biggest threat. Like
I just wanted more from that. I feel like the guy took a break. Like if the Department of Justice does not live up to its commitments under the terms of the agreement, we're confident in the prosumer and pro-competition policies.
Yeah, just like Adam says, if they aren't going to live up to their end of the agreement, then we're going to do nothing.
Let's see. Ellis Home Inspections. Patrick Ellis says, haha, weak sauce. Yeah, I know. All right. So I want to open this up to a broader discussion. I think Jay's article.
So Jay never. Go ahead.
I was just going to say one more thing. Jay talks about what's the words that he uses in this. It's really good. Man. He's got a good, like, his tone in the article is also really good too. So I really like it. Subsequent comments. Hang on just a second. Hang on. Words like mystifying, unprecedented, and broader investigation are not really what you want to hear or think about when it comes to your livelihood. Equally
Right.
disturbing is the sordid mess, is how obvious many real or how oblivious many real estate professionals seem to be that it's even happening. That a government entity would negotiate a settlement, presumably in good faith, then
back
renege on
out.
said settlement is baffling. You need to understand what's happening in your industry. Keep a close eye on these developments. It doesn't look like they're going away, and the DOJ's most recent action seems to be a giant step backward toward any resolution.
Yeah. So if you're one of these agents that doesn't follow along, you just have to follow us, and we'll keep you updated every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Literally all you have to do.
So, but I just find it interesting that, it was this big thing. Oh, cool. We settled. We're good. You can't come after us anymore. Now they're like, nah, we still want to come after you. And then NAR's like, all right. I mean, okay. So I don't know if you've ever met Ray, and anyone who's listening or watching or whatever has ever met Ray in person. He's a big dude. We're about the same height. I might be a little bit taller, but he's bigger than me.
Beefy.
So it's like if, how did you say it earlier? Rotund.
Rotund, yeah.
Which he's not. That says, but anyway, but if Ray came charging up to you, just mad, and you're like, oh my God, what are you going to do? And he goes, hey buddy, it's nice to see you. How have you been? Like, that's essentially what just happened. Like the bull charged and was like, all right, here it comes. NAR's going to
do nothing.
Yeah.
But I don't, man. But
I would be pissed if I were a real. Oh wait, I am.
Legally, what can they do?
I don't know. I don't know law, but if you agree to something, how do you like this? Is the outcome. How do you back out of the outcome?
Well, it seems to. I mean, it seems to me that might go to the Supreme Court and courts and all that stuff and be decided. But I mean, you can't really sue the government.
Right.
Like Elizabeth Riddell says, does this mean that the DOJ has found a bigger, better fish to fry, aka not a settlement, but an actual hammer time? So most likely,
they still want to be able to come after us.
Yeah, and there's a lot of discussion on the tech side of this conversation about the FTC and the DOJ going after companies like Apple and Facebook, and actually Facebook just kind of won. It didn't lose a lawsuit. There was a lawsuit thrown out against Facebook from, I think it was the DOJ, that talked about anti-competitive behavior. And basically the judge was like, hey, you have to prove your case that they're a monopoly. You can't just say, hey, we all assume that they're a monopoly and here's what they're doing now. He was like, you've got to say, this is why they're a monopoly, and this is how they're a monopoly, and this is the marketplace in which they're participating as a monopoly. So all these changes at the FTC, I think administrative changes with the changing administration, I think that is actually what's happening, is you're seeing that the new administration wants to take this on somehow. And so I think it's more politics than it is anything else. And I also think they just want to leave a foot in the door so that they could sue us in the future for other stuff.
I think that's the biggest part.
Yeah.
It's almost like there was fine print that everyone agreed to, and then they went back and read it and went, oh, wait a second.
Yeah. And in Jay's article, he has like a couple of breakout points. And one of them says, while NAR has long encouraged buyer's agents to explain how they expect to be paid, typically through offers of competitive compensation from sellers' agents, there will be a rule that more definitively states that buyer's agents cannot represent their services as free to clients. And what all of this boils down to, it's not that the rules in place weren't sufficient or that agents overall weren't correctly communicating this. What this boils down to is that there were a few who are very loudly saying, use me, I'm free. And when you do that and you market it all over the place, and that's not actually the truth, and you're not explaining to your buyers how you get paid, and they're just assuming, quote unquote, you're free, well, you're misleading the public. And I even see agents who add in additional fees for themselves under the quote closing cost line in a contract, and they don't explain to the buyer that they are inflating the purchase price that the buyer's going to have to buy the home for, because they're adding additional fees for themselves in the closing cost line. The buyer has no idea. Now, if the buyer knows that's happening and is like, yeah, I want my agent to be paid more, and we have this, we agreed to pay him I'm just going to throw out numbers. We agreed to pay him 5%, and the seller's only covering 2%. So we're going to throw in there that as part of the offer, we want the seller to pay an additional 3%. If the buyer understands that that's what's happening and loves the service that the agent is providing, then that's fine. But my problem is when the buyer doesn't know that's happening. That's crooked. And there's
extremely
enough
crooked.
of that stuff in our industry that has to get sorted out, or you're going to see the DOJ taking stances like this. So what could happen? I'm not seeing any hands raised in the clubhouse, and it may be that the app continues to crash. So just a heads up, if you do have your hands raised, like text me or something, or go on YouTube and let me know so I can come to you guys, because I'd love to bring.
Yeah, I'm not getting any notifications either.
So let's talk about what could happen if the rule is the seller can no longer pay the compensation of both sides, right?
Well, so that would go into that scenario where Adam was talking about earlier, how the buyer going to afford that.
Yes. And that is the issue. I think that the lawsuits are, there's Keller Williams. What are the lawsuits that are the companies that are involved with the lawsuit with NAR? It's some of the larger companies like Realogy, Keller Williams. It's basically the biggest,
and Berkshire Hathaway, wasn't that one of them?
Yeah. Hang on. Let me do a control find here. All right. It's Keller Williams, Remax, Zillow, Realogy, and NAR are all being sued in this Moeller class action lawsuit.
Zellow's super happy they became a brokerage now.
No. So this lawsuit, this class action lawsuit, is basically saying, hey, buyers, because they're not paying the compensation of these buyer agents, they don't know they're paying the compensation of the buyer agents. And this change in announcing publicly how much the buyer's agent compensation is was supposed to kind of prevent that from going through. But if this happens, then I think the argument that the National Association of Realtors needs to make is it will have a disparaging impact on those who can't afford the base cost of using professional representation plus their closing cost, plus now buying a house in a competitive market.
Right.
So, and that's what I think that we'll see is some changes in contracts around the country that aren't clear. And I don't think that one has legs. And we've talked about that in the past. I just don't see that going through. I think it's going to lead to some changes. And I thought this DOJ change was one of them, but now it remains to be seen that the DOJ is backed out. It's pretty much no holds barred now, and NAR is open for attack.
Yeah. Then I think it would, lead to predatory, more predatory lending where they say, no. We got you covered. We're going to cover the cost of your realtor in your loan, and then they get to tack on what they want. I mean, how many people read every single page of what their loan entails, right?
Yeah, that's a good point too.
But I don't know. I think they're just straight up. Oof. Sorry, I just got an ESPN update. That's bad. I just think it opens up the door to so many things. But we have here in California, it's called a BRE, a buyer representation agreement, and it's exclusive, and it lays everything out. Here's how I get paid, and we have a minimum. We for our brokerage, we put a minimum on there, of how much we get paid, and then if that's not covered, that's the buyer is on the hook for that. So it's all disclosed. Everything is out there, and they're very aware from it. And I literally get them signed when I start speaking to someone, so it's not, I'm not throwing it in later as part of a contract or whatever. It's I throw it out there up front. It's part of my buyer's consultation. And it's fully disclosed. So I think kind of, Ray, you mentioned there needs to be, we've learned there needs to be more disclosure. Disclose everything about your business when you're a real estate agent, but there needs to be more than that. And maybe, I don't know. That would give me, I have hope, but maybe this will clear things up and make more agents disclose and stop doing the sketchy stuff. But I think what it'll do is like kind of when they tried to do the add the coming soon thing, I think it'll have repercussions that we don't want.
They don't,
and I don't mind, by the way, DOJ come after us. Like,
well, I think it needs to be sorted out. That way it can't be, one of the benefits about going to court, and this is what I've said back in the,
which is what we did. We did go to court and it was sorted out.
2 years ago, one of the benefit, well, when you settle, it's not a precedent, right? So one of the benefits about going to court and getting a judgment is that the judgment is pretty much final unless you run it up the flagpole of the Supreme
Because
Court
weren't
and
we
get
excited when this was happening? Like, okay, cool, let's
Yeah,
go.
like,
Let's go
let's
all the way
go.
through with this. And let's
finally-
throw
yeah.
all of our policies out there. And then they settled, and now we're here.
Yeah. But if they settle with one party and then there's no precedent, and then you're open to attack from any party that just wants to make a buck. So I
Right.
think let's take it to court and let's get it settled, and then put whatever practices that the court suggests, put those in place as part of that. But I think we need a precedent. We need a judgment on it. So I'm
Yeah,
for
I mean, like, I really like the one where we had the buyer's agent commission is disclosed now. It's out on every single website, Zillow and Truly and all that stuff.
But it is like in one of the websites, it shows it as a charge to the buyer. And so I had a guy contact me. He was like, "Hey, what's this charge? I want to buy this house, but it's got an extra charge on it." I was like, "What do you mean an extra charge?" And he said, there's this extra. And so I had to explain to him on the phone how this works. So even though it's out there, it's not clearly understood. And he's like, "Well, I want to go with this other agent because he said that he wouldn't charge me that." And I was like, "No, man, this is not how that." So I had to explain to him now that this other agent is using that and saying, "Well, look, if you go with any other agent, they're going to charge you this. I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going to charge you that." Well, until the listing that they get into escrow on only is offering 1.5%, then he's going to go, "Oh, wait."
Yep. So anyway,
yeah,
there's I don't think there's a great solution, but I think a judgment would help, because that would put the contracts in place to make sure that everybody is being above.
Well, and maybe, and it feels like, having all the friends that we do across the country, it feels like contracts are fairly consistent as far as what they cover and disclosure and stuff like that, and kind of how we charge what we charge. I walk into a listing appointment, I say, "Here's what we charge, and here's where all the charges go. Here's the cost of our services. Here's where all these services and here's where this percentage will break down to." I mean, we break it down to the penny essentially. So it feels like that's pretty consistent. And then just state to state, it varies on escrow or title or lawyer state or whatever. Yeah. But for me, like, I'm not afraid. Come after us. Like, let's put it out there so everyone can see what we do and how we charge and why we earn this money. Those of us who are the, top agents in our area, and we do what we say we do, we're fine with that. We'll disclose it.
Adam Johnson said that's exactly the problem. Many agents put zero in the commission. Right. It's free. What a joke.
And it's not free though. And it's because I hear a lot of new agents going, "I'm free to you. You don't have to pay me $1." Yep. Okay. Well, you do. It just comes from the seller.
So, it reminds me of what my dad has always said. He always says that locks are for honest people. And I think disclosures, gun laws, and locks all have one thing in common, right? If you're good enough to follow the disclosure and to not break into a house and to follow your gun laws, then you're probably not the criminal that the law was made for. However, once those things are in place, it does give the government room to enforce things that should be enforced that may not already be enforced. So
when they really don't know what they're talking about, because it's
and you can also use disclosures like this to educate the public, so that if the point is we want the public educated and here's why, then that's a great piece of content that real estate agents can make. Like, do you know how commissions work? I mean, bam, you get somebody that watches that all the way through. Do you know how real estate commissions work if you're buying or selling a home? Somebody watches that all the way through, put another ad in front of them, retarget them, and talk about maybe some areas in your town that are available for sale. And if they watch that, or if they look at that ad, now you have two buying signals, right? They're curious about how the process works, and they're curious what's available on the market. So now you start to reach out to those people. So I think you can use this type of thing, this type of news thing that people are hearing about. They're seeing it in the news. They don't really understand it. So put the educational piece out there, see who watches it, and then follow up with them. So Dan, speaking of following up, where can everybody find you?
D. Ludwig Rocks everywhere, right here. Which I always get followers after the show.
It's on the Clubhouse, on the Clubhouse app.
On Clubhouse, D. Ludwig Rocks. On Cash App, if you want to send me a tip, that's D. Ludwig Rocks. And then over on Instagram, where I post most of my stuff, real estate content related, just me being dumb, and then lots of softball related content as well, because I am a softball coach. But over on Instagram, DLUDWIG ROCKS. Ray, where can they find you?
at Razorback. That's RAYZORBACK. Wherever good Razorbacks are sold, that's where I am. So it's on. The only reason why I say it is because it makes you smirk and laugh. So, thanks everybody for joining us on the show. We really appreciate the feedback, and thank you so much for the Clubhouse folks that hung in there and stayed with the show, even though we had some glitches in there. I really appreciate that. Thank you to all who hit the plus button and share it with people. Be sure to catch us on the replay, catch the chops, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we will see you guys next time.
Love you guys.
Everybody. Bye.